Some breaking news on the president's ongoing war with the media, with Mr. Trump finding some fresh ammunition. This after a Washington Post reporter sent out a misleading tweet about the size of a Trump rally in Pensacola Friday night. And CNN had to correct a report on the president's son and WikiLeaks over the weekend. All of this, of course, on the heels of ABC suspending investigative correspondent Brian Ross after erroneous reporting on Michael Flynn. President Trump tweeting, very little discussion of all the purposely false and defamatory stories put out this week by the fake news media. They are out of control. Correct reporting means nothing to them. Major lies written and forced to be withdrawn after they are exposed. A stain on America. Joining us, our media panel today. Joe Concha is a media reporter for The Hill. Judy Miller is a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter, author, and Fox News contributor. Not a good weekend or maybe week for accuracy, Joe.
It was the worst week for U.S. political media in modern times, and I'm not the only one saying that. Glenn Greenwald wrote a great piece for The Intercept as well, stating the same thing, because you just listed them out. I mean, in aggregate, the Brian Ross ABC report that had to be corrected that earned Ross a 4-week suspension. Then we almost forget, because it feels like 5 months ago, but it was only 5 days ago. Weren't President Trump's bank records supposed to be subpoenaed? That's what Reuters and Bloomberg reported. That turned out to be false. And obviously, that CNN early look at WikiLeaks email report as well, that turned out to be false. And I think what we have to start asking ourselves here, because it wasn't just CNN, CBS and NBC also confirmed that report, John. How did 3 news organizations get duped on the same exact wrong information, a wrong date, September 4th instead of September 14th, in terms of when those emails were sent to Donald Trump Jr.? How did that happen? And should that source or sources now be exposed, because they've probably done it before? They're going to do it again because they purposely misled those news organizations, and those people or person needs to be exposed now.
Yeah. Judy, for those who aren't paying close attention, this was all about the fact that Donald Trump Jr., according to CNN and some of the others, received an encrypted key that was going to unlock this stolen material regarding Democratic sources well ahead of the public. Unfortunately, it was September 14th, not September 4th. He actually received the email a day after those documents had already been made public, and that's what has the president's ire going today.
Well, that's what has the president's ire going today. Tomorrow it will be another mistake. Yes, we reporters are human. Media organizations make mistakes. They make mistakes all the time. The issue is, how do you correct a mistake? What do you do to correct the record? And in the case of Brian Ross, he was suspended. And in the case of CNN, every time they have caught a mistake, they have gone on the air almost immediately to announce the mistake. People are human, but I've got to tell you, John and Joe, I really disagree with you. This may be the worst of times in terms of this past week for journalism, but it is in many ways the best of times for journalism, because journalists have been called upon to report on an administration that doesn't want scrutiny. That is our job. We have to do it. We're going to make some mistakes in terms of doing it, but not having us do that would be much more problematic for the country.
But, Judy, do you think...
I'm willing to take those tweets from Donald Trump.
Do you think, though, Judy, that some of these reporters go into some of these stories with an agenda?
I think they go in with a hypothesis or a thesis, and I think they go in with an attitude. That, too, John, is human. What you have to do is have editors who check the bias, who say, are you sure you checked with the person who disagreed with this report? Do you have more than one source on this? Is the source confidential? Then you may want 2 or 3 sources on it, especially if a story affects the president, who is known to watch everything we do and pounce on every mistake.
Right. And John, but here's the thing. Woodward and Bernstein at last check were human as well, and they were sober, careful, and meticulous in their reporting. They made a couple of mistakes along the way, but they took their time. And in the case of CNN on Friday, they went ahead with the report based on information that was read to them. And the Washington Post did good journalism. They actually got the document that showed the September 14th date instead of September 4th. There was no reason there for CNN to rush ahead with that report, just like there wasn't with ABC and Brian Ross and going ahead with his report on Donald Trump instructing Michael Flynn to talk to the Russians during the campaign when it was actually during, after the election, while he was president-elect as National Security Advisor, and to talk about ISIS. So that's the thing. It's not a matter of, oh, we just make some mistakes. It's going to happen. It's a rush to get things first instead of being accurate, and that's the mistake that we're seeing over and over again, based on stories solely on unnamed sources.
You know, talking about the need for an editor, this Washington Post reporter, Dave Weigel, who tweeted out a photo of a half-empty arena that the president, where the president was supposed to appear, suggesting that the president didn't draw a big crowd. In fact, it was well before the event. He did withdraw. He did delete that tweet later and apologized to the president for a misleading tweet. But again, Judy, every reporter needs an editor.
That's right. Everybody does. And even with editors, we are still going to make mistakes, John, because people and news organizations are human. But once again, let us not make this about us. This is about an administration that is dodging scrutiny, an administration in its first year that has Bob Mueller looking into everything, subpoenaing thousands of documents. It is our obligation to follow that investigation, to follow this president, whether or not he likes us reporting on his diet or the way his hair looks, or whether or not the Russians colluded with members of his administration during the campaign. We have to follow that story.
John, it would have taken all of 30 seconds to check that the Florida rally that he had on Friday was packed. And there was a rush there as well to get a photo out that was negative towards the administration. And if you talk to any Trump supporter, here's their complaint over and over again. Why isn't there just once a positive story that is leaked on this administration, right? And by the way, the reporter just didn't say, oh, here's the Trump rally. It says packed to the rafters. There's got to be an attitude connected to it as well. And that hostility is why so many Americans not only mistrust the media, they outright loathe them.
The president is doing his own tweeting about the economy, which is a good news story that he thinks the media are not covering. Joe Concha, Judy Miller, our media panel today. Thank you both.
Thank you.